All right, it was a Southern swing that many felt would set the tone for the rest of the Southern primaries. And if so, the race to find the Republican nominee will go on for a long time. Well, last night, the first victory came from Rick Santorum. The former Pennsylvania governor won Alabama by a decent margin over Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney. The other big state of the night, Mississippi, was a three-way race. And in the end, Rick Santorum just barely beat Newt Gingrich. Mitt Romney again finished third. CBSNews.com's senior political reporter Brian Montopoli is here to discuss the results. All right, so Mitt Romney said earlier that Rick Santorum is at the desperate end of his campaign. Kind of didn't seem like that tonight.
No, they got overconfident. I mean, they said, oh, look at these polls that are showing we might be able to steal the South. And if Romney can win in these southern states, he puts to rest this notion he's not good with very conservative voters, not good in regions that he doesn't seem a natural fit. So they got excited, and I think they got a little bit ahead of themselves. I mean, realistically, Mitt Romney was never going to win a lot of votes in the South. What he was depending on was these two other candidates, Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum, to split up the vote. And they did do that, but they didn't do it enough for Romney to squeeze through. So he ended up in third place. Not a terrible night for him. If you look at the percentages, he got about 30%, but he's still in third place.
Are you surprised at all that he was in third place when all was said and done?
A little bit. I mean, the polls coming in were tight, but you know, these are tough areas of the country to poll. There's traditionally not a lot of polling in the South, and so no one was really sure what was going to happen. Certainly, folks did not think that there was a groundswell of support for Mitt Romney in these areas, but you know, Gingrich, this was his backyard, and Santorum seemed to have the momentum, so you know, there was certainly an opening there for Romney.
Well, since it was Gingrich's backyard, what's his takeaway from this?
I mean, he's defiant. He says he's staying in the race, but this is a guy who's lost, I think, 23 out of 25 states so far, and yet he says he's still going to be the nominee. His wife, Callista, last night introduced him, and you know, you're sitting there and she's saying he's going to be the next president of the United States, and you wonder if even she believes that at this point. I mean, Gingrich is going to stay in this race for a while, but he's going to face enormous pressure to get out. Conservatives want to rally around someone who isn't Mitt Romney. Rick Santorum has clearly made himself that person. I mean, he's won a lot of states. He won these two states that Gingrich really needed to win. So it just seems like, why is Gingrich still hanging around? Now, what Newt Gingrich would say is the elite media, such as myself, you know, is quick to push him out of the race. We've tried to do it before, but I just think you have to at some point start looking at reality. He's going to have a hard time raising money after this, and he's going to have a hard time getting people to vote for him because they're going to look to Santorum.
Well, and if anyone wants Gingrich out, it's Santorum, right?
Certainly Santorum would greatly benefit from it, and if there's somebody who wants Gingrich to stay in, that would be Mitt Romney, because you know, Romney, as long as these guys are splitting up the vote, is going to be able to stay solidly ahead. But you know, Santorum wants him out, but Santorum's not going to call for him to get out. He's going to put a lot of pressure on him. Look for the Republican and conservative establishment to start putting a lot of pressure on Gingrich to get out and to let this be a two-man race. I think it's effectively a two-man race now. I think Newt Gingrich is essentially, his campaign is essentially dead, but he just won't admit it.
How does Mitt Romney win over those southern states?
I don't think he does. You know how Mitt Romney wins over the South? He becomes the nominee. And then they say we're either going to vote for Mitt Romney or Barack Obama. And I think you could put up a wet towel against Barack Obama, and he would still get 60% in Alabama. I mean, you know, these folks do not like Barack Obama, and no matter who the Republican nominee is, they're going to support. I mean, look at John McCain 4 years ago. That was a guy that a lot of conservatives weren't comfortable with, but when push came to shove, they certainly voted for him. So I don't think Romney's weakness in the South is a big issue in the general election. Republicans are not going to lose these states. The problem for Romney is he needs to convince Republicans to get on board and create an inevitability narrative so he doesn't have to slog through all the way till the end of these primaries, and he just hasn't been able to do that.
All right, well, we appreciate it, Brian. Thank you so much for your insight.
Sure.
CBSNews.com senior political reporter Brian Montopoli.